Hello masters, welcome to the new style of video here on the channel. That's right, the old zombie is gone. Long live the new zombie. If you happen to be watching this video on the day that it is released, that being July 30th, 2021, then you might be interested in knowing that we are actually doing our debut today over on the Twitch channel at 1 p.m. EST, and hopefully you would be able to join us. However, we decided to debut just a tad bit early here on the YouTube channel, so here I am. But the main thing that we're here to do today is of course talk about this week's episode of My Next Life as a Villainess X. Episode 5, Love for the Younger Brothers Pours Forth. But before we get into the video proper, I would like to humbly remind you that if you have not yet done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It would help us out a ton. Now with that said, let us begin. This episode was certainly a surprise in many ways. Jeffrey in particular was quite the shock. We had many things regarding him, including that wall of love that he has for his brothers, but I think that that's quite charming. Unlike most of you humans, Jeffrey actually comes across as quite respectable and dependable, and I think that the wall of love was actually quite cute in a way. It was nice to see this side of Jeffrey, as we normally know him to just be sort of eccentric. This new side of him showing how much he truly cares for his brothers is actually quite refreshing. We see it at first when he is shown how much he truly cares for his brother Gerald, as Gerald is sort of distraught. We see he feels as though the world's sort of against him in the sense. He can't see his mother, for she is constantly having to take care of Alan, who in turn feels rather weak by comparison to his brother Gerald, and it's all quite a sad affair, and I think without Katarina it could have gone very much south. As we know, by the time that the original game starts, the two brothers are very much at odds, and now that Katarina has become her own unique self, shall we say, she's actually able to forgo that and stop the brothers from fighting, and I think that that's quite a good thing, because I do think that the Alan and Gerald, or Gerudo, depending on who you are, dynamic is really quite nice, and I feel as though losing that would be tremendously sad for the series. And I think that showing how much Jeffrey had attempted to not so much bring them together, but to care for his brothers in the background of even season 1 is really quite impressive. We see him continue to be there for Gerald despite how cold Gerald was, and continue to be there for Alan despite how angry Alan was. And that persistence, I feel, is very key to who Jeffrey is as a character, and I really respect him tremendously for it. As well as seeing just how worried he was when he thought that the rumors were true and that Ian hated him, only to find out that of course that's not the case, and Ian is very much still, loving his brothers and still cares for them, despite the fact that they are both in, a battle for the throne. They still very much care about each other, and I think that that's really quite unique. However, I will say that I have one major concern, and that concern is how much the brothers truly seem to care for Jeffrey, and how much Jeffrey cares for the brothers, and how often the brothers comment on the fact that Jeffrey is very much always protecting them. Now, as I'm sure some of you might be aware, this is very much a different era for Hamefura, where we are less focused on Katarina and more focused on the world around her and how much darker it has become, and my concern is that perhaps Jeffrey might perish in sort of a bid to protect his brothers. That would be horrifying and also quite sad, and I certainly hope that that's not the case. I wouldn't want to lose Jeffrey, but I do think it might be actually quite poignant, or rather poignant, for his character to perish in an attempt to save his brothers. And I can just see it. I could just see it happening already, that he'll die defending his brothers, because the show is going to try to break our hearts in some way and show that it is meaning rather serious business. This has stopped being a fun otome throwback and has instead become a full-fledged isekai at this point, and I think it's really quite commendable for that, and I think it's rather interesting how they've spun off from that. And it would make sense, since Jeffrey is the one who imparts this information onto Susanna, saying that there are those within the royal family who know of dark magic and how this dark magic might actually be a threat going forward. It's different than the way dark magic was displayed in the past. Like, you see how much more intense it is now, how there's an entire faction of people potentially using dark magic in hopes to fulfill their own needs and desires. And I don't know if that necessarily means that Jeffrey is going to bite the bullet. Perhaps I'm just reading too far into it. Perhaps I'm being just a bit too cautious, but in my 200 years roaming this earth, I have seen many stories, many fictional stories, and all of them have death flags, and Jeffrey is very much giving me a number of rather intense death flags. No longer are we dealing with doom flags. No, doom flags be gone. Katarina escaped you. Now it's death flags, but not for Katarina, no. No, for dear sweet Jeffrey. However, of course, I feel like there are many things that we are forgetting, not the least of which being Katarina and Gerald seemingly becoming quite canon. I was over the moon. As some of you might know, I do consider Gerald to be my son, my precious son, and it's not Gerudo, it's Gerald. Gerudo is simply the Japanese pronunciation of Gerald, and yes, I know that the dub calls him Gerudo. That's stupid on their part. Once again, typical humans. However, his name is Gerald, and he is my son, and I am very proud of my son. I had always, to some extent, shipped Katarina and Gerald. Shipping, I believe, is what you humans call it when you enjoy two fictional characters being together. I'm still getting a little used to your strange vocabulary here on your internet. However, I've always quite shipped these two characters together, and it's rather fun to see them finally connect and actually kiss and confess their love and all of that fun stuff. It's really quite sweet and rather charming in many ways, and I feel as though there was a potential for this to go south, that Katarina would, of course, get the wrong idea and think that it was all but a dream and all that nonsense. And of course, that's not how it goes. Katarina is very much informed that no, this is not a dream. This is rather quite real. You know, Gerald said so himself once upon a dream. This is very much a real thing. And Gerald and Katarina very much feel endgame at this point. They feel very much as though this is the true canon, as it were, which I can see. There are many Otome games out there where there are many different routes and paths in which the protagonist may take. However, there's typically one final canon ending, a canon couple, as it were. And I feel as though when it comes to fortune lovers, that at the end of the day, Gerald and Maria, rather. Can't forget that Maria is actually the protagonist of Fortune Lovers, but Gerald and Maria might be the true canon ending. But now that Katarina has essentially usurped that role from Maria, it seems as though that this could be the proper endgame ship. And I think that that's really quite unique and sweet, and I love it. I love that we're actually getting characters saying I love you and kissing and being cute and all of that stuff so early into season 2, only at episode 5 of seemingly a 13 episode run, and we still have so many episodes left to go. I'm really, really thoroughly impressed with the pacing this season and everything about it, and how much they're really pushing the Gerald and Katarina ship. And honestly, this episode just further cements it. When we see Gerald's backstory and how he felt so alone, and we see how cold he was towards Jeffrey and Alan, and how he felt as though the world was against him, that he couldn't even spend time with his own mother. And it was really sad and just really upsetting to see such a smart young man be put through such devastating trials, and coming out the other side thanks to Katarina. It just further cements these two as meaning something more, that they are meant to be together. And sure, Katarina certainly has her fair share of picks, and if you ask me, there are some other people who I would rather see Katarina with, namely Mary. That's my personal favorite. But I do think that having my son join with Katarina and in a union of love It's quite romantic, and I do think that it was truly romantic, and the fact that we get a second kiss was really quite surprising, and I have nothing other to say than just it was beautiful. I'm really quite impressed with this season. I hadn't expected to enjoy it as much as I have, and I simply can't express how much I've just been surprised. As I said, we are pretty much in a straight-up isekai now, where I can't really tell where we're going. It's less about doom flags, as I said, and more about just sort of existing in this isekai world where there's magic and a magic academy, and what does that mean for Katarina going forward, knowing that she can't quite predict these doom flags anymore, and what that means for her and Gerald, and what is Jeffrey planning and Susanna planning, and what about this individual who was trying to get Rufus to do his bidding, and is Rufus even alright? And like, there's so many questions left unanswered, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see where we're going. It's far and away the best show airing this season, and of any shows to make my proper butlery debut, as it were, I'm quite glad it was with Villainess. The best show of the season as far as I'm concerned. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. Rather short one, just very much wanted to get my thoughts across and let you all know how much I've been enjoying this season and how excited I am to make my proper VTuber debut here on the channel, and I hope you guys enjoy the new home. I am currently in my manor, Frostmire Manor. It's quite lovely this time of year. However, before we close today's video, I would like to give a quick thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. God, look at these beautiful names. My masters. Look at them. They're wonderful. If you'd like to join my masters, then I would humbly request that you check out that Patreon link in the description. For just $1, you can join these names here, or for just a little bit more, you can check out that join button right beside the sub button. This gets you a badge next to your name and some emotes to spam in the comments if that's your cup of tea. Or, for $1, you can join the Patreon. Either way, it is super, super appreciated. Thank you once again to my masters in the T Squadron, and that is it for me, so until next time, take care of yourselves, or I will eat you. Kidding, of course, but in all actuality, thank you so much for joining us. Do be sure to join us for the live debut over on Twitch. If you would like to join us, there's a link in the description. We will be going live at 1 p.m. EST today. But until next time, clean your room. It's filthy.